I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Coming up, new questions about the police response to the deadly school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. What we're learning from new video obtained by ABC News. Also, powerful storms hammer the Midwest. The new images of the destruction from several reported tornadoes. Russia is gaining new ground in Ukraine. We have the latest on the fighting, plus the new agreement from European allies against Moscow. And new details on Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. A look at what and who to expect this week. But we begin with the fallout from the elementary school mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Two of the young victims, Amerie Jo Garza and Maite Rodriguez, are being laid to rest today. Meanwhile, new video obtained by ABC News is raising new questions about the delayed police response, which is now under review by the Justice Department. ABC's Marcus Moore has the latest from Uvalde.
New video obtained by ABC News raising questions about law enforcement's response to the deadly shooting at Robb Elementary School.
Guy with a rifle.
Police seen rescuing children after breaking a window, then pulling them out.
Somebody jump out the window.
Oh, the kids. They're getting the kids out.
The footage showing part of what took place outside the building. During those 77 minutes, the gunman went on a rampage inside. It also captures what appears to be dispatch audio, telling officers a student is calling from the classroom that the gunman had entered.
We do have a child on row 12. Are we able to, is there anybody inside of the building? Child is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
An ABC News analysis of the video shows that was at approximately 12:13.
8 to 9 children.
Again at 12:16. She's called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive.
But 19 students and 2 teachers lost their lives. Texas authorities say the school district police chief wrongly believed the situation was no longer an active shooter and had ordered tactical teams not to enter the classroom while the children desperately called 911 for help.
It was a wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that.
The rampage finally stopping when sources say federal agents decided to go in and fatally shoot the gunman. Now the Justice Department is reviewing law enforcement's response. Diane, I want you to take a look at the memorial just outside Robb Elementary School. It has continued to grow. People coming here leaving flowers or teddy bears, many of them just feeling compelled to do something to honor the lives lost, those 19 children and 2 of their teachers who were shot and killed here at the school. And today there will be a focus on the families, of course, with the funerals that are happening today, the first of many that are expected this week and in the coming days. But there will also be focus on the bipartisan group of lawmakers that are meeting again today to continue negotiating a legislative response to the massacre that happened here. And among the ideas being discussed are potentially expanding background checks and other ideas. But one thing is certain here, Diane, as you well know, people here in this small community and across the country want something to be done to prevent this from happening again. Diane.
All right, Marcus Moore in Uvalde, Texas. Thank you. Meanwhile, President Biden is vowing to act on gun violence prevention measures, but says he can't do it alone. ABC's Alex Perche joins me live now from Washington with more on this. Alex, we're now hearing about some conversations on Capitol Hill, bipartisan talks. They're talking about measures like expanded background checks, a nationwide red flag law. How serious are these conversations, and how likely is it that they might lead to some new legislation?
Well, Diane, I mean, I think they're as serious as talks can be, right? But, you know, the question that so many have had is, well, what legislation does this ultimately lead to? And when that happens, or if that happens, will it pass that 60-vote threshold in the Senate? But, you know, the president here has said that, yes, he is motivated to act on gun reform here, but this is something that he is relying on Congress. He has said that he can't make major change without Congress, and so he's leaned on Speaker Pelosi and also Leader Chuck Schumer to really kind of initiate and facilitate some of these talks. And so we know that there have been ongoing talks throughout the holiday. There's another Zoom call being held today amongst a bipartisan group of senators where they're considering things like red flag laws and expanded background checks on commercial sales. And look, I mean, the president has said himself that he can't outlaw a weapon. He can't change background checks. This is something that legislation should take a look at. This is something that legislation should govern. And so that's kind of where we are right now.
Now, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy is leading those bipartisan conversations. He says lawmakers are discussing, among other things, the profile of many recent mass shooters, young men between 18 and 21 years old. What kind of change could that lead to?
Well, we've heard about this idea that, you know, the guidelines for buying a handgun being different than buying guns like AR-15s, or AR-15 style guns that we've seen in some of these recent mass shootings. Teens, 18-year-olds being able to get their handguns on those earlier than they would be, or they would on handguns. And so, I mean, this is actually something that we've seen bipartisan legislators bring up, closing that loophole where maybe there is legislation put forth that would raise the age for owning these types of guns to 21. It's something that Republican Adam Kinzinger has been pretty adamant about, and we've heard other Republicans bring that up as well. So that might be one of those areas where there is some overlap for potential bipartisanship.
Now, President Biden is set to meet with the Prime Minister of New Zealand today, who famously tightened that nation's gun laws after a mass shooting at a mosque in 2019. What are you watching for in those meetings?
Well, so we know the two. They're going to be talking about combating off and online radicalization of violence. And if you remember, like even the Buffalo shooting, the alleged shooter there referenced in memos praising not just the Dylan Roof, the shooter of the Charleston church, but also that shooter in New Zealand. So some commonalities there. So they're going to be discussing that, and they're also going to be discussing the Indo-Pacific economy and having a free and open Indo-Pacific, which is kind of on the heels of his Asia visit a couple of days back.
All right, Alex Prochet in Washington for us. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
And now to the latest on the war in Ukraine. The European Union has announced an agreement to expand sanctions on Russia and ban more than 2/3 of Russian oil imports. This comes as Russian troops gain ground in the eastern Donbas region, where Ukrainian forces are fighting to stop its advances. Foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge joins me live now from Kyiv, Ukraine, with more on this. Tom, what do these new rounds of sanctions mean for Russia, and how might they affect the war?
Diane, they mean three things in broad terms. One is that it's going to cut off a key Russian bank from the international payment system known as SWIFT. Secondly, it's going to impact oil. Now, what it means is that basically the EU, the European Union, is going to ban 2/3 of oil imports from Russia. That is tantamount to billions of dollars of revenue for the Russian government. Remember, Russian energy is fueling the war here in Ukraine. So it's a significant step, but the bigger question is whether the EU can wean itself off Russian gas. Russian gas imports are much more significant into the EU than oil.
Now, one of Russia's key targets in Ukraine, Tom, is this strategic city of Severodonetsk. And according to the Norwegian Refugee Council, up to 12,000 civilians may be trapped there. What's the latest on that? Are we looking at another Mariupol potentially?
Probably not as bad as Mariupol, I think it's fair to say, Diane. I mean, look, around me, people here in Kyiv are relaxed. They're celebrating the victory over Russian forces when they tried to get into the capital, visiting these burnt-out tanks as kind of tourist attractions now. But out in the east, in the Donbass, things are not going to plan for the Ukrainians, that's for sure. The Russians are taking territory incrementally. They now look to have taken at least a proportion of that key city of Severodonetsk. They've also taken a town in that area called Liman in the last week or so, and that gives them a kind of bridgehead in military terms, a strategic position to keep their momentum towards even more key cities like Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, places I know well from my reporting a few years ago, which are key cities in the Donbass on the Ukrainian side.
And Tom, I mentioned Mariupol before. Drone video released yesterday shows mass graves there. What does this do for the ongoing investigation into alleged Russian war crimes?
Yeah, look, I mean, Mariupol is a shocking situation. We saw when the Russians were sieging that steel plant, when there were still Ukrainian troops inside, the destruction, the utter destruction that Russia is bringing to this country in places. And it's not unique. We've also seen drone footage recently of another area. But those mass graves in Mariupol, I think, give you a sense of how many people are being killed in Ukraine because of Putin's war. And it also raises questions. Given what we've seen in places like Bucha, outside Kiev, the way that Russian soldiers have been guilty of atrocities on civilians in a mass way, it also raises questions about what Russian soldiers and the authorities, the pro-Russian authorities that they've put in place now, a puppet authority effectively, have been doing to civilians there too.
Now, Tom, a French journalist was also reportedly killed in the Luhansk region. France is now demanding an inquiry. What do we know about what happened at this point?
Yeah, this is a really powerful story, Diane. Frédéric Leclerc-Imhoff, 32 years old, he was killed in shelling, Russian shelling, according to the French government yesterday in the Donbass. His French TV channel say that he was covering a humanitarian mission. He was basically filming an evacuation mission for civilians out of a particular area, Severodonetsk, as we mentioned earlier. And today, a Russian state news agency has accused Mr. Imhoff falsely of being a mercenary. And in response, we've had a very, very powerful statement from his mum. A very powerful statement, basically saying, accusing this state Russian news agency of a lie, saying their statement makes her sick, saying that they will not dirty the image of their son, who she said was committed to democracy and the truth. And that shows you, I think, how low Russian propaganda can sometimes go in this war.
All right, Tom Sufi-Burridge in Kyiv, Ukraine for us. Thanks, Tom. Stay safe. Coming up, we are awaiting a verdict in the legal battle between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. The latest on those jury deliberations after the break. Welcome back. Jury deliberations are underway in the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard defamation trial, and we could have a verdict as early as today. Will Reeve is outside the courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia, with the latest. Hi, Will.
Diane, deliberations resuming at 9 a.m. Eastern Time in Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's multi-million-dollar defamation trial. After 6 weeks of testimony, a 7-person civil jury comprised of 5 men and 2 women heard closing arguments and were handed the case on Friday. They deliberated for a couple hours then. They are back now after the long weekend, and a source close to the trial tells ABC News jurors need to answer 7 questions regarding whether Depp has proven elements of defamation and whether his team has provided clear and convincing evidence that Heard acted with actual malice when she wrote a 2018 op-ed describing herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse, despite never naming Depp himself in that piece. Both Depp and Heard took the stand at various points in the trial. Heard claiming on the stand that Depp abused her more than 12 times during their marriage. Depp denying all allegations and claiming that Heard's op-ed damaged his career and earning potential. And he made a surprise appearance over the weekend in England, showing up playing guitar alongside Jeff Beck. Now the weekend is over and the jury resuming deliberations here at the Fairfax County Courthouse. The trial has had millions of eyeballs and armchair analysts on social media, especially on TikTok. That's in addition to all the hullabaloo here. The fans of Depp and Heard showing up to see the spectacle in what has become one of the most high-profile and wrenching celebrity trials in recent memory. Diane.
All right, Will Reeve in Fairfax for us. Thank you. And let's bring in Law and Crime Network host and legal analyst Terry Austin for more on this. Terry, thanks for being here. What do you think? Is this going to be a quick verdict, or do you expect to wait a little while?
I think it's going to be relatively fast. I think the jury is going to look over the evidence very carefully, Diane. I think they want to be very serious. It's a serious case, obviously, domestic violence, and there are multiple allegations. There are 3 claims as far as Depp's team is concerned and 3 claims as far as Amber's team is concerned. So I think they're going to look at those statements, answer all of the questions on that verdict form, and determine whether or not there's going to be compensatory damages and punitive damages. So they have their work cut out for them.
Now, what exactly do you think jurors are evaluating? How do you see these deliberations playing out?
Well, they're looking to see whether or not these statements were false. And they have seen over and over again that as far as Amber Heard is concerned, she's been caught in so many lies. So if they look at it generally speaking and they think she's lied about multiple things, Camille Vasquez, the attorney for Depp, did say, listen, you can discount everything she has to say. So if they do that, then it looks as though it could very well be that she loses her defamation counterclaim. As for Depp, those three statements, basically, if the jury finds that they were false, then they will find in favor of Depp and say that Amber Heard basically was lying, that he wasn't violent, that he didn't commit all of these horrible, horrendous acts. And that's a possibility.
And what happens after the fact? This trial could impact their public images and careers going forward. Could there be more legal ramifications for that down the line?
Excellent question. You know, Depp actually got back up on rebuttal and said, listen, no matter what, I have told my truth here, whether or not I win or lose. And I think his reputation was the most important thing as far as what happens after this case. From a legal perspective, no matter what happens, it's up to the individual if they want to bring a suit. Again, I doubt that would happen. If they both lose, I think they'll both walk away. If one of them wins, there might be some damages that they get in connection with that, the compensatory damages I mentioned before, as far as money that was lost because of these claims that were made in the public. So, you know, there's a lot that could happen, but no matter what happens, I think this is going to be the end of it as far as legal actions are concerned.
All right, Terry Austin from the Law and Crime Network. Always great to have you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Coming up, powerful storms are on the move after hammering the Midwest. The new images of the destruction from several reported tornadoes when we come back. Welcome back to ABC News Live. The Food and Drug Administration is investigating 2 brands of organic strawberries that may be linked to 17 cases of hepatitis A in 3 states. The Fresh Campo and HEB strawberries were sold in March and April at several grocery chains. They're well past their shelf life, but the FDA says anyone who bought them and froze them should not eat them. Preparations are underway for Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. The celebrations officially kick off on Thursday with the trooping of the colors. The parade is more than 1,500 soldiers and 350 horses. They will carry out this complex battlefield drill, several maneuvers. It's a tradition that marks the British monarch's birthday. In February, Her Majesty became the first British monarch to mark 70 years of service to the United Kingdom. And some good news for coffee drinkers. A new study finds drinking a few cups of coffee a day is associated with a lower risk of death. Researchers found that people who drink a moderate amount of coffee, between 1.5 and 3.5 cups every day, even with sugar, have lower risk of death than those who don't. The results stayed consistent across decaf, instant, and ground coffee. And at least 5 reported tornadoes touched down overnight, leaving a trail of destruction in the upper Midwest. The powerful storm system caused serious damage to dozens of buildings. ABC's Alex Perez has the latest from Minnesota.
Multiple reports of tornadoes touching down across Minnesota.
That looks pretty dangerous. Look at that!
Winds taking out this semi-truck. The city of Ferreta gutted. Officials report nearly 100 homes and structures suffering severe damage.
Windows blew in the house and we were heading for the basement.
Roofs ripped right off. Drone footage capturing the vastness of the damage. Homes along the lake shoreline obliterated. This massive tree uprooted, crushing this house. Barns leveled.
We've got firemen that have been doing house-to-house searches.
Crews conducting an active rescue, going door to door to make sure everyone was safe. Many residents going through what's left of their homes, trying to salvage what they can.
And Diane, I want to show you just how powerful this storm was. Take a look at the roots of this massive tree here. And if you look just on the other side, you can tell it came down completely, crushing this home right here. Now, officials say, thankfully, the family inside the home made it to the lower level and there were no injuries reported here. In fact, authorities say so far, no injuries reported or fatalities reported here in this area. Diane?
All right, Alex, thank you. And Ukrainian students in the U.S. are watching a war in their homeland thousands of miles away. And they're struggling with uncertainty. Many are suffering homesickness, facing economic hardships. ABC News' Alexis Christoforous spoke with one Ukrainian student who's finding support from an unlikely source.
Sophia Zerzak remembers exactly where she was on UC Berkeley's campus when she learned that Russia was invading her hometown of Kyiv.
I remember being in the dining hall and reading the news and exactly those news about the actual invasion starting. And life just stopped for me for a moment because I realized how unpredictable and how dangerous the situation is.
Sophia's father, Ruslan, remains in Kyiv, while her mother, Natalia, has fled to Poland to stay with a family that's taking in Ukrainian refugees. Natalia FaceTimes with her daughter nearly every day.
When I phone home and phone Sophia, I was happy that the connection, it works and it is possible to see, to hear all my family.
For 19-year-old Sophia, watching the war from afar seems surreal.
The road that I used every single day is now filled with remainders of tanks and burned cars. I think that these are history, like pictures from the history textbooks. And yeah, I do not really recognize the city anymore.
Just 6 months into her freshman year, the war has upended life for Sophia and the roughly 1,700 other Ukrainian college students studying in the U.S.
For data science? Yay!
Unable to return home for the summer, Sophia and many like her were left scrambling to find a way to stay in the U.S. The U.S. federal government has temporarily extended visas for Ukrainian students, while schools, including the University of Chicago and Columbia University, are offering scholarships for displaced students. Now, corporate America is answering the call. The San Francisco-based tech company AI is one of over a dozen companies offering Ukrainian college students paid summer internships. Sophia will join them this summer as a software coder. What inspired you and your company to look specifically for Ukrainian students in the U.S. to be interns this summer?
So it actually was an employee-led initiative. Our company is all about safety, and we started to think about the children. And that's how we got there, was the children inside of Ukraine, and then we looked at children who were outside of Ukraine who couldn't get home.
3 of AI's 10 summer interns are from Ukraine, and the company crowdsourced to find them temporary summer housing. For Sophia, the opportunity is a lifeline.
It is definitely very important in terms of general expenses over summer, but it is even more important for me in terms of tuition for next semester, because international tuition in Berkeley is very expensive.
Natalia is grateful Sophia is safely out of the country.
I'm very happy and I'm very thankful to all people who is connected with this internship and to all volunteers around the world who help Ukrainian now.
What's the thing you miss the most when you think about home?
I miss my dogs.
When you do finally get back to Ukraine, what is the first thing you want to do or the first thing you want to see?
I would just love to have a nice, quiet evening walk in the center of the city and go to a nice restaurant somewhere that is peaceful.
And Sophia plans to major in computer science at UC Berkeley and says she hopes to return to Ukraine after she graduates to help her homeland rebuild. Our thanks to Alexis for that report. And thanks to you for watching. I'm Diane Macedo. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.